Now on with the show. Tonight you're in for a fantastic time with our Sarah, our senior MC Sarah Ware, who I don't know what I'm going to do with out next year. You'll see her in a few minutes. There will also be intermittent door prizes. They're all of the literary nature other than that chocolate bunny right there. And there'll be a little Q&A at the end with our writers. So on with the show. Andrew McFadyen-Ketchum is an award-winning author, editor, and ghostwriter with numerous books of poetry, literary and genre fiction, creative nonfiction, and nonfiction to his name. He is the author of 3 poetry collections which have won awards and honors, founder and editor of poemoftheweek.com, editor of Apocalypse Now, Poems and Prose from the End of Days, assistant director of the Owsley Fork Sanctuary, acquisitions editor for Upper Rubber Boot Books, founder and editor of the Floodgate Poetry Series, and professor of creative writing at the Infinity Center's Performing Arts Academy. Andrew lives in Nashville, Tennessee with his family and dog, Chewy. Come on up, Andrew. That was very polite, but let's clap one more time, a little bit more
Yeah, I think I do want the stand. I'm gonna have to adjust everything. This'll work. Some people call me too tall. Literally. All right. It's kind of hard to read from a book with one hand, you know, so. Thank you for being here. Before I start, I want to take a selfie with everybody. All right, everybody, look really happy and happy to be here. Okay, 3, 2, 1, look happy. Oh my God, I got it. Yeah, get in there, girl. All right, even better, okay. Thank you, you can all go back to looking miserable. I was at this event last night that the Porch had put on where Major Jackson and, what was the name of the podcaster, honey? He's super famous. He's on Radio Lab, that guy. And there's this question of like, why is poetry not, you know, loved as much as it could be or whatever? And the guy said, it's lacking joy. And my wife and I burst into applause, and everyone turned and looked at us like, what's wrong with you people, right? But the point is that it sometimes is lacking joy. But this group here, when I taught down the hall there, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there's no lack of joy. So thank you very much for bringing your good energy. So I have published 3 books, and I have never had the opportunity to read from all 3, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read about 45 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm going to read about 15 minutes, and so I'm going to kind of squeeze in as much as I can here. I'm going to start with, and I should say, this book turned, I think it turned 11 this year because it was 10 last year. Yeah. This book, Ghost Gear, which is about growing up in Sylvan Park when it was not Sylvan Park. I mean, none of y'all know what Sylvan Park is. You think you do, but in the 90s it was a completely different landscape. I'm talking to the younger people here. So I published this 11 years ago. So that means, Celiana, can you come back up here again? Do you mind real quick? That when I published this book, just come up here and just stand there and just be yourself. When I published this book, y'all kids, young people were her age. Isn't that crazy? All right, give her a round of applause. Thank you, Celia. All right. This is called Driving into the Cumberland. They know they aren't the first or the last, clinging along in their clam bake of 30 weight and redlined RPMs, blood brothers weaving in and out of the US 100's metered yellow dashes. They're 16, making their way 15 miles west of town to that sheer drop of Tennessee limestone where gas pedal weighed down with a cinder block and stick shifted into D. They watched that V6 peel out in a sidewinder of mud clods and black exhaust to tumble 80 feet to the Cheatham County Cumberland below. These are the days before death and taxes will stop them back at the fork in the highway. The days when they will still compare the calling of a girl to suiting up for the moon and are angry at their fathers for being their fathers. When they think back on it, they'll think it's all the unknowing of 16 years that drove them to that promontory, the Continental single headlamp dimming as it sank like a submarine in the waters made murky by runoff, to watch it disappear around a bend in the river and know for fact they've left their mark on the city of their births, to peer into the shallows of the riverfront 8 blocks from their high school, Hume-Fogg, and envision that Continental at rest in that mausoleum of Cutlass Sierras and totaled GTOs. What was it about that Continental that just begged to fly? They'll ask all summer, rewriting the details of their story beyond even their own imagining. Just watch how, electing to stay in the car, they toss back the last dregs of their 5th of tequila, yell "F it," and floor that once luxury 4-door, speeding for the cliff's edge. What song Billy Corrigan churs through the radio will change hands in the telling innumerable times. What degree of fullness the moon they will be wise to misremember. Look at them, swimming by its baleful light back to shore. Look at them lying and laughing together. Tonight, they are alive. Tonight, they are breathing. Neither is thinking of the long walk home. Neither yet knows that weaving their way back to town through the moonlit dark, that stumbling stoned along the edge of the highway they just drove, Peter will keep saying, "Look, it's the world. We're finally seeing the world." It's really true. We yelled, "F it." Wouldn't it be amazing if throughout our lives we went, "S word"? F it. Okay. I've never read this poem to an audience before, and every time I plan a reading, my wife says, "Why don't you read the one about the so-and-so?" And I always say, "Well, I don't know how to fit it in." So finally I'm going to read it. This is called "For the Return of God." The day God invented the universe, God gathered God's museum of stones in a mason jar and cast it to the cold star of oblivion. When the boy would come home from school, nose bloodied from yet another fist swung up from out of nowhere, he'd borrow that jar from the cupboard, swipe the river stones and split geode that lined his mother's vanity, clack his sister's string of pearls along the edge of her jewelry box, snag the ghost white marble from his father's collection, stashed like a secret in a shoebox on a high office shelf. In the backyard, the boy would uncork the jar, sweep those gems wide around him, geode the sun, river stones, 9 planets, marble, moon, those pearls a ring of galaxies, holding hands in tight circle around it all. Then he would wait, first for the stones to shudder, then levitate, to form a swirling vortex in the air, and slowly corkscrew back into the jar with a sound like wind through trees. He'd wait for the jar's lid to screw itself back on, then pop, seal. He'd hold the jar in his hands and shake it like a rattle, listen to the hollow clatter of stars, earth, and everything else he couldn't comprehend, clinking like punched out molars between rows of teeth. For a long time, he waited for the return of God. For a long time, the wind stayed very, very still. You know, it's kind of remarkable. I wrote that poem probably 15, what year is this? 2025, 2010. I wrote that poem 16, 17 years ago. And when I read it today to get ready, I figured out what it was really about. And it was kind of a tough realization. So Second book. This came out, I don't know, the day the NBA shut down for COVID. How about that? Not a good day for a book to come out. It did spare me from having to go on a book tour, though, which was actually kind of a good thing, because I had just gotten with my family and I wanted to spend time with them, and so that was the only thing left to do. It's about, do you remember Mary Interlandi? Yeah, it's about our friend Mary Interlandi, who committed suicide in 2001, I think. I think that's, yes, 2001. And I spent 10 years writing only about Mary, literally. I didn't write anything else for 10 years in an attempt to write this book, and this was the product. So I'm going to read this one poem from this collection. It's a bit lengthy, so just hang on. If you fall off, it'll be okay. Just get back on when you can, okay? This is called A Calling. Day after day, I traverse this land. Of the earth beneath me, I dream. Deep in the dark of the Green River Valley, Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, and all I have left of that 7th grade field trip, this geode, this mere nodule of limestone shaped like a fist my mother found turning out my pockets for the wash, this amethyst amulet my father helped me chisel open, its countless purple ciphers cracking open before us, only to be packed away in a box in the basement when I moved away. This artifact of a past life I first found struggling with my classmates in the cave through a squeeze when our tour guide rasped, "Listen," before switching off the thin string of lights that lit our way. At first, nothing. Only darkness predicated on more darkness. Girls' and boys' shrieks echoing between the rebound and hush of nervous laughter. Listen. Then, quietly, low rumblings of the river carving its corridors below, random drips of water, a sensation of a movement in the air, and the glowworms opened. In the beginning, one by one, then tens, then 1,000 frail lights flaring to life, tiny and cold blue as the eyes of newborns. There, in that aura, we were told the tale of the classroom, just like yours, that lost its way decades before the advent of the light bulb. Those children of the saltpeter mines and tobacco fields feeling their way along shelves of flowstone and gypsum, their pitch pine torches slowly succumbed to the dark, their teacher having abandoned them for his own children's sake. Some of the children weeping, some still clinging to the hope of calling out, "Mother, Father," many disappearing without a sound. That first night, the geode sat on my bedside. The dream was slow coming. Sleeplessness in the broad sweep of headlights that crawled my bedroom walls, wind howling its low frequency of omen and admonishment, until I found myself not in bed, but holding hands with a girl my age in a peacoat and wide hat of the old style, shiny black shoes strapped to her feet with silver buckles, her face lacking any detail, like the way fish must see daylight through the silence of their streams. And when I found myself standing with her on the banks of that underground river, swift with whitecaps like little white tongues, I didn't think to protest when she stepped into the rapids and slipped away around a bend in the dark. I don't pretend to understand it, this dream, but sometimes I'm convinced it's about goodness. Now when it comes, I look down at the earth scattered with a light, like the light within seeds. Then I'm back in that torrent, the cave walls sprouting river trees, carrion birds burdening the branches of water cypress. And when this host of lost children calls out, I call back. And when I get a ride, they rise from the river in the form of quiet sparks, in the form of fallen stars as they glide through the air to enter the geode, singing for my poems in the mother tongue of the elements, guided by the promise of a better place, not so wet and dark and cold, and I, dear keeper. Uh, 24 years ago that she took her own life, and it still causes this. Just want to take a moment to say, it's if you know somebody who's getting there, please just do what you can to help them out, because I didn't do that very well, and we lost her. What was that thing about joy I said earlier? Part of joy, there can be no courage without fear. You know, part of joy is you can't have joy without sadness. You know, you have to have the two. And so all these things work together. I got 2 more poems to read. I wanted to read this poem because I wrote this poem in college. It's the only poem I have that's that old in a collection. And I really shockingly like it. Most poems that I wrote in college, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I would never see that again. This one I actually really like. It stuck with me all these years. I graduated college in 2003. I put this together in 2023. And so for those of you who are about to go to college, for those of you who are, really not that far anyway, you don't have to be a senior to be about to go to college. It's a year or 2 away. Some of the stuff that you write now and some of the stuff you write in college could end up in a book in 20 or 30 years. So keep that stuff. If it sticks in the back of your mind and it's like, I should work on that poem for that long, you should probably go work on that poem. All the things I do not know. In 1 square foot of winter leaves collected in the river, in an eye blink of shallow curling ebb, all the things I do not know. The must and musk of time, red's deep raspberry, cold's deep brick, those meant to reproduce and their carriers, seed pods seeking a bank, warm soil, their final resting place and home. A rich perfume rises from leaves long and thin, fingers born for the piano's keys. Orange rays shine through a blue-wet sky, yellow simmering to umber with December's scalding cold. Tiny floating metropolis in this single square foot of Caney Fork River, rarely worth mention on the state or county maps we unfold across the dash, driving with one knee, coffee searing our hands, searching for the next unfished hole, a galaxy clockwise turning in the middle of the world on the edge of the Milky Way, backwash habitat powered by the river's flow north to south, in this one elbow of creek, in this flashbulb instance of life. Oh, this happy, oh, so harried life, all the things I cannot know. And thank you for the applause between each poem. There was a little while in our weird poetry world where it was like not cool to clap or snap between poems. And then you'd have these readings where the poet would read a poem and then sort of go to the next one and be dead, silent. And I was like, we need to stop that. So y'all are doing it exactly right. This is the final poem I'm gonna read. Thank you again for having me. I'm excited to hear y'all and see what y'all come up with. This poem has my whole family in it. And they're also all right there. Thank you for coming and seeing me read. I really appreciate it. This is called Home. He wakes to the tapping of his lover's finger on his chest, a bluebird opening a shell, a watchmaker tinkering a gear. You were talking again in your sleep, she says, her face inches above his. He kept saying, I can't wait to go home. I can't wait to go home. Don't you get it, my love? I wanted to say to you, we are your home. We are. Thank you.